Hi everyone, and welcome back to the P.O.W.E.R podcast. Property, ownership, wealth, and everything related. A platform where we have honest conversations about power, leadership, finance, and pretty much every topic. I'm Melissa Ashcroft, Finance Specialist and Managing Director of the AAA Financial Group. For over a decade, I've structured funding for property, business, and development projects across Australia, and I've seen firsthand how access to information and planning promotes more choice and therefore more power for all of us. But access isn't just about approvals. It's about confidence, it's about education, and it's about understanding the systems. And that's exactly why today's conversation matters, especially as we're heading into International Women's Day. Today's conversation couldn't be more timely, and this episode is a special one. As we head into International Women's Day 2026, I wanted to invite on a woman who is not just talking about change, she's building it. Lucy Kough is the founder of Tap the Gap, a movement and community focused on closing gaps for women. Not just pay gaps, but confident gaps, leadership gaps, and the invisible gaps that often hold women back from stepping into their full potential. She's also Vogue 2025 Innovator of the Year, so we'd love to add a bit of fashion into the mix.
Yes, we do. Thank you.
Lucy, welcome.
Thank you. It's such a pleasure to be here, and really excited to have our chat today and be able to discuss some really important conversations that are happening more broadly out there in terms of women in finance and superannuation in particular.
Exactly. Yeah. So I'm always love to ask our guests, because everyone's always interested in who the people are behind these companies and founders and things like that. So can you just tell us a little bit about yourself and your career and how you've developed this amazing platform for women?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Lucy, and I'm a previous creative director in advertising. So I've spent my career essentially solving problems for brands and looking at behaviour change and how communication can really shift things for people, whether that's road safety, being on a diet, or trying to lose weight, or just even the behaviour around what sort of packet of chips am I going to choose when I get into the grocery aisle, right? Which can seem really trivial, but I think it's a really important mix that comes together when you're working on those things. And deeply, what's always fascinated me is that human behaviour and what makes people do the things that they do and what stands in their way. So that was my background, and I was working on a superannuation client for about 3 years in my day-to-day job, and I discovered this statistic on a website of my client that said women are going to retire with 28% less super. And I'm a mum of 2, I've had time off to have my kids, and I looked at this and I thought, this is just a rort, right? Like this is not what we need and what should be happening in our society and in the time that we're living in. So I looked at that and I thought, that's really bad. We can talk to people about this, but how can we really actually shift things? And if you think about a problem like the superannuation gap, which it's a huge problem. Women in Australia, as I mentioned to you the other week, are retiring with less, but not only that, they are 8 times more likely to be homeless over the age of 55. Now, that is the statistic that actually made my stomach drop. And I remember from, my childhood, my mum, Margot, who's a primary school teacher and brought up 4 kids on her own. She's a bit of a legend. Her name is Margaret, but we call her Margot in our house.
Love that.
And that's my nickname for her. And she retired with no super of her own and very little financial security. So I do know what it's like to grow up in a household where you don't have that. And it does affect your mindset around money. And I think that's not a fair outcome, for someone who's been a pillar of the community and has worked her whole life. So I looked at that and thought, you know what, we have to do better, and we have to do better for my daughter's generation, and I want to do better for all the women in my community and those around Australia. So I had this deep passion within me, and what was interesting was when I started to talk about the super gap to people, it was astonishing how many people, A, didn't know about it, and 2, the biggest response I got was, oh, I should really do something about my super. So this apathy that women feel, and not just women, it is broadly Australia, they have this disengagement from superannuation, which, you know, even the word itself, as I say it, most people just switch off, right?
Yeah.
It sounds boring, and it is part of our financial infrastructure that we've never really embraced as a nation, you know.
No.
We weren't taught about it in high school,
No.
university, parents might not have spoken to us about it, and we call that in marketing world, it's a default category. You probably spent more time choosing your outfit this morning, you're looking gorgeous,
Definitely.
then you might have, not you because of your role in finance, but the typical woman might spend more time, you know, buying a pair of jeans than she does deciding on her super fund. And when it's one of the biggest financial assets you'll ever have, that's something that we need to shift. So, you know, I decided at that point in time, I thought, you know what, I understand the human psychology behind it, why women aren't engaging. They're busy. It feels too hard, it's boring, and they've told themselves over time that they're not great at finance. So what we need to do is really shift that behavioural lens. We need to change super from this thing that is too hard basket to feel effortless, and that's why we've built Tap the Gap, which is a behavioural platform that engages women in super and their finances, and we use a combination of education as well as the latest open banking technology, to drive the automation of contributions into their super.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And, you know, identifying a gap and doing something about it is one thing, but to create this, you know, and I believe I'd be the most recent, you know, member of
Probably,
Tap the
yes,
Gap, given
yes, you're up there.
I love shopping, and, you know, even working in finance and owning companies, it is something that even in my head, until we'd connected, was a kick down the can. Even if I'm arranging loans for someone, you never think, you know what, let's do little incremental things to build.
Yeah.
And so that's what the app's taught me in a short period of time, that it's stuff that I don't even need to really consider, and it's helping
really think about
me. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So I think you've tapped into something there, saying that in the mind of someone, it feels like hard work, and that's why they stop. That's that human barrier.
Yes.
The way we've built our experience is you connect to your bank accounts in under 5 minutes, and then you can come back or you don't have to, but that works for you in the background. Like, think of something else in your life that you just wish ticked over. Like, I wish my dishwasher just unpacked itself. You know, that would be great in my world.
Yes.
But that's the reason it took us a little bit longer to build this product, was because we know the hurdles that particularly women face, and, you know, they're drowning out there from a mental load capacity. We need it to feel simple, and we need it to feel empowering. And the interesting thing around the behaviour is that there's a philosophy that, if we just educate women more and we tell them more about it, you know, they'll do it. It's like, please save us. It's not that these women aren't smart. They're not. They're excelling in every other part of their life, but they just need that help. And we're building for the way that women actually live, which is they do not have a lot of white space. So help them do that, and that little bit of progress, like you might have seen your roundups ticking over in the app.
I did.
It makes you feel really good, and that feeling then is kind of like it generates the next action that you might take.
100%.
So really our bigger vision with Tap the Gap is not that we're just helping women put those extra contributions in, but we're growing their confidence. And I think you talked about that confidence gap is really important for all aspects of finance with women.
Yeah, and it's that confidence gives you power, and the power gives you choice, and then you can make great decisions. And it is a set and forget platform, and it is something that's incremental, and particularly I see women more so are more risk adverse, you know.
So true.
Maybe a male is more likely to go down we'll just do this and invest in this and I know where it is.
Correct.
Whereas a woman will be like, I don't know, you know, it seems like it's quite a lot. So I think in the education side and the, you know, incremental addition, it's something that I would build confidence on, and I'm sure many other people will as well.
Yeah.
Without forcing it down your throat, like superannuation, like, what is it?
Yeah.
You know, when I was a teenager working in a surf shop, it was like, you need a super account. Oh, okay, how do you do that? And I had that account for 25 years.
Yeah.
And didn't really know what was going on with
Probably
it.
didn't
It was
check
just a PAYG thingo, like, oh great.
Yeah.
And then the beneficiaries were actually my brother and sister because I didn't have children then. And, you know, just even little things like that can really, you know, change lives. But also I knew more once after 25 years, not one communication either on it. Not one thing. I had no idea.
That's the thing. Like, you would never not check your bank account in 25 years.
Yes.
And yet we're seeing the statistics are about 33% of Australians will never, ever check their super. And what that means is, you know, some people will think, oh, that's all right. I'm not going to access it until I'm 60 or 70. But what's happening in the background is that you might be sitting in a fund that's not performing. You might be sitting in a investment choice within that fund that's not performing or doesn't really suit your lifestyle, your risk profile. And so these are the things, and I talk to our audiences about it, which is, you know what, it's kind of like choosing the ice cream flavour, right? So everyone kind of gets vanilla from the start, and don't get me wrong, like vanilla's okay, and some people love vanilla. It's classic, it's reliable. But if you don't know that there's some, you know, triple berry, you know, with a slice of, I don't know, orange dark chocolate in it, then you go, actually, that could be for me. And it could be for me at a particular point in my life. Maybe later I will switch back to vanilla. And that's something that you see as you're getting closer to retirement, that your risk profile will drop because you don't want to lose all that money close to when you're taking it out. So, you know, and you'll see a lot of the super funds are really innovating in this space where they are having these lifetime products and they automatically shift for you at a particular point in your life. And they're doing that on behalf of their customers because they know that that's something will benefit them. But again, Australians don't know about that.
Exactly. So what you've created is amazing. Who you are is amazing. And I think a lot of people out there, if they haven't heard of you already, they're kind of tapping their toes right now thinking, if I want to take control now and I'm interested in learning more, what's step one with Tap the Gap?
Yeah, well, look, I think, you know, it's up to everyone. If it's something you're interested in, of course, every kind of investment, I say, comes with a level of risk. So it has to be something that's right for you. But we have all of that information on our website, in our product statements, our terms, and our privacy. And we do have an Australian financial services license. So we are authorised to give general advice, essentially, not personal advice. But really what you can do is jump onto our website, tapthegap.com.au. You can download our web app, and from there you can just onboard. So there's three parts of the app. One is the roundup technology, which essentially is I buy a coffee for $4.50 and it will round up that 50 cents and sweep that into my super. And that's our premium feature. And then we have brand bonus, which is when you buy from a brand that you love, say it's the Iconic, say it's Collagen Co, or it might be your mobile phone company, or Dyson, who just joined. Yes, if you're thinking,
I want a Dyson.
and exactly, if you're thinking about a big ticket item like Dyson, for example, and you purchase that through Tap the Gap, you will get a percentage of that spend back. And that is the brand offering you that money. They are gifting that money to your super. And that goes automatically in for you. So it doesn't cost you anything to do that. You can just connect. And the interesting thing about it is, yes, there's lots of retail platforms and loyalty platforms out there where you have to click a coupon or you need a code. And honestly, like sometimes it's like, seriously, I've got about 3 seconds and if it's not working
not
for
in
me,
my Apple Wallet.
Correct, I'm just going to tap out. And so we use card link technology, which means we are looking at the Visa and MasterCard data. And so you connect that card once, which takes under 60 seconds in our app. And then we're matching that. So you might go in store to, say, Oz Design, who are on our platform. You buy some pillows, or you know, on a whim, or some homewares, and that will track that and bring it back to you and push it through to your super once a month, which is what we do. So it's a really simple way to do it. And if you're shopping online, if you've already connected your card, you don't need to go through a particular website. You don't need to come back to our app. But it's great to come back to the app to see what the different offers are. So sometimes that shifts. We're adding new retailers all the time. got about 250 at the moment. But and we've also got stories. You know, the brands are keen to tell their story about what they are doing in that space for women, and particularly the brands that we've got a direct partnership with. That's something that we're talking about because we want to bring this conversation around women in finance right up into the space where everyone can see it and feel it, and make it something that bigger business and corporates are talking about. Exactly. So that's probably, you know, what we're most excited about in that space. The retailers really making them accountable. There is a bit of a sentiment of, you know, pink washing going on out there, and you see brands that can get it wrong to say, oh, we're doing all this stuff for women, but actually we have no females on our board, or we have no one in senior management who, you know, is gender diverse. And they're the things that we need to be making those retailers accountable for, I think, and we believe quite deeply at Tap the Gap. So this is sort of the framework where we're asking those questions. And look, I was at the Vogue Codes conference last year, and there was a fantastic panel. And a lot of the directors and women who are leading, you know, investment firms are saying it's our job to really keep these companies accountable as to what's happening at the top.
It's our responsibility. You're taking this on, they're taking that on.
Correct. So
how women are.
This is it.
That's why we need more in leadership roles.
We do. And I think, and I love that point to you saying that I think women do think about different things when they spend their money.
Absolutely.
That's something that I know that retailers recognise, but it is really interesting, you know, some of the debate and discussion with different investors are saying that actually a pink dollar becomes a green dollar. So, you know, naturally, and you'll find this in the space when it comes to succession planning, or when women are managing their overall finances, they are thinking about the family that they're leaving it to. They are thinking slightly differently, and it's not that men aren't doing that, but there's a different level of consideration as to how they look at their overall sort of portfolio of money and what they want to achieve with it. So I think that's a really interesting and growing space, particularly women who are getting older, you know, and actually want to have an impact through, you know, through their family, or you know, through their career, or really give back to the community at this point in their lives.
And that's the whole emphasis about what we want to do and how we want to help, and our legacy, and, you know, what are we leaving behind for our children. But then you look at where a lot of people are now, including myself, until it's brought to my attention in this really cool way. Had I even thought about that? No. So I really think it's such an eye-opener, and like Tap the Gap, it's easy, it's safe to use. It's got all the ingredients for a smooth and seamless, I guess, confidence building and knowledge building that, you know, it's empowering.
Yeah, well, I'm glad that you used that word, because that's what we sort of aim for. Our, you know, effortless empowerment is really what we're about. And sometimes that word empowerment gets a bad rap, because it's like, oh, do I really want to feel empowered? I'm just exhausted. You know, which is the sentiment. And it's funny, we've got a community event coming up. Community is a really big part of what we're trying to build at Tap the Gap. And, you know, we've titled it Less, actually. You know, we really want women to go, you don't have to do more in order to get ahead. Actually doing less, like let the technology do it for you, is a great pathway to doing it. Absolutely. Because I think the thought of having to learn something new, add something else to your plate when you're maybe already feeling like you're at capacity, is just too much to comprehend. So that, you know, it is a deep behavioural lens that we're kind of, you know, we're putting on everything, and that's everything from the product design to the onboarding in terms of the way that you engage with the product, and all of our content and communication that comes around that. Because a key part of it, which if you're not familiar with open banking,
I was going to say the technology
so the
side.
Technology
Let's discuss
side of
that.
It. So look,
what is open banking? Let's start from the very beginning.
I like that.
Yeah.
So, you know, this is not something I knew about over a year ago. So open banking, or what's commonly called CDR, which is the consumer data right, allows you as a user, so me, Lucy, I can give consent for a piece of technology to read my bank statements, to tap into my data, if you like. And that's done, it can be done in different ways. Web scraping is one way, which, you know, has been around for a long time. And then there's open banking. And that is a more regulated space and it's more secure. So you'll see this trend in Australia and, you know, we've had it for 10 years in Australia, but a lot of people don't really know about it.
No.
The easiest way I'd explain it is in your own bank. So maybe you're with CommBank or Westpac or NAB or whoever. You see the categorisation of what you spend. So at the end of the month, you might go, oh, I've spent, you know, X amount on food and cafes and X amount on, you know, finance and X amount on, you know, fashion or whatever it might be. That is actually open banking. So it's reading those transactions and it's categorising them to give you insights about your spend. So pretty much everyone who's with a major bank is using open banking right now. We just don't know it.
You just don't know it.
You just don't know it. So where we're taking that lens and the most common use for it at the moment is in lending.
Yes.
That's the highest use case, is that, you know, before we'd have to ship off our bank statements and we'd have to fill in all these forms and it was very cookie cutter in terms of applying for a loan, right?
Exactly.
What's great about open banking is not only do they see how much money you earn, but they're seeing what are you spending on, what categories are you spending in, how quickly when your pay comes in does all that money go out. You know, someone could be earning a lot of money, but they're, you know, 60% of it is going on, I don't know, gambling, for example. You know, they're not going to be as reliable a source for a loan as someone who actually is earning less, but the percentage of their spend is more evenly distributed.
That's right.
So open banking allows us to have this really detailed view of who a person is.
Yes.
The way that it works in Tap the Gap is that really we read those bank statements in order to work out the roundup. So we want to read every transaction. For me, I connect it to my sort of grocery and banking everyday card. And so every time I tap that, I might go to the supermarket, or I might, you know, buy a gift for a friend, or I might have a subscription that comes through that card. It rounds up to the nearest dollar, and it calculates that, you know, looks at it and then direct debits it from my account. And that happens 3 times a week. So, you know, it's a simple way to do it, but I think there's fear amongst people who haven't used it before, because in that process of connecting with open banking, you have to give access to your data. The interesting thing about it is you are never giving away your full NetBank login, you know, or any of those details together. Every bank has their own, you know, way that they enable it. But you might put in the last 4 digits and then you might get a pop-up through your banking app that helps you validate. So there's quite a lot of steps that the banks have been through to get to this point. And for you, there will be that authorization. So it's not like you can accidentally connect to open banking. You know, you have to make an active choice, and it is easy. It can happen in minutes, but it is, it's something I want to really encourage women, and particularly, you know, women who want to build confidence, read about it. You know, we've got information on our website about it, but don't be fearful, because it's actually you taking control and agency of your own life, and it's helping you get ahead. And I think if we remove that fear that people have from a data and privacy point of view, then, you know, yes, you should be discerning in which banking technology products you connect with, but that's why we've built, you know, Tap the Gap in this way. High level security, it's bank grade security. We're using open banking providers that are the best in the market, and, you know, we've had to get our AFSL license, you know, to do it. So and it hasn't been like I just flipped a switch. It's safe, you know.
Exactly.
In that. I mean, how do you find the way that people, you know, approach open banking in your space? Like, is there fear there?
No one ever asked me questions on my own podcast, but thank you for that.
Okay, sorry.
No, I love it. We use it. We've been using it for the past couple of years. Originally, it was a simple tool for me to access their information without having to bother them, and without having to use passwords, because there are a few redundant platforms, but still get widely used in our industry, where you do get the bank statements link, but you have to put in your password, and they just don't like doing it. So being on the MFAA board of directors, we use Frollo, which is endorsed by our industry body. So first of all, you've got that. Second of all, when I first did it myself, I was like, I've actually got 4 different bank accounts in different places, and there's not one place that consolidates all that information and actually shows me my true net position based on everything. So unless you're like, there's no other way to do it in a quick, seamless and safe way.
Oh, wait,
I've got an Excel spreadsheet, but I don't actually, it's not monitoring and tracking that. So back to your question, we encourage all our clients to download the app, and then we can do that from a broker portal. So it's shared with them. It says AAA at the top. So they further know, we've got our industry body endorsement. You're not putting internet banking passwords. You use this, it gives us the information. And for the example of a customer that might have an approval in principle, it might be about we need to access that information again in 3 months because their approval has expired. So instead of me having to go back and get all the new information, I can do that. Equally, they can just cut it off at any time that they want also.
Correct. And you can choose that consent. So for people listening, you are in charge of that 100%. I mean, you can have it time limited. We've got a default within our app that, it connects for a certain amount of time, which is on a year. But you can opt for that. And, the banks, look for all the bank people out there. And the banks aren't the biggest fans of open banking. And look, I can understand why, because it is giving consumers more agency and it's encouraging competition. But I really think that's important for us.
Absolutely.
And I've heard some just fantastic stories from women who were in debt who actually couldn't get a loan to pay off the debt because, they were in the situation they were in. Open banking had allowed them to get the right kind of loan to pay off that debt, and they were thriving afterwards. And you're right, that visibility of having everything in one place. Let's have a look at it and go, okay, this is really my net position. I can see it. And that's something we find, like looking at your finances in the face rather than kind of putting your head down or just going, I'll get to it later, is the best thing that you can do.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter where you're at.
Exactly.
One of the things we do with Tap the Gap and through our corporates and through our workshops is get everyone to bring along their super balance first time, the first thing. And that's just for them. It's not something you share with everyone else, but it actually makes people go, oh my gosh, well, what fund am I with? Where is it? All of these things. So it forces them into that small behavioural shift. And it's doing that. You seem like women sort of standing up a little straighter. They're going, oh, I know. Well, I've done that now. And I just consolidate with my super. They will be really proud of that. I know it's a tick box thing.
Exactly.
But it helps them do the next step.
Exactly. Yeah. It's almost like, we have mirrors for reality and mirrors for this. It's a finance mirror, like mirror on the wall. I thought I was doing a whole lot better than I am. And, there's a few tweaks I can make here. I'm empowered now. I know what I can do to make it better. Or I'm empowered. I know what I can do and I'm just not ready yet, but I'm going to keep it going. And it's the mental war game that women always play. But, I think the mirror on the wall is really important for every single person. And yes, I haven't gone back to work because I've had children, but you probably got some super there. And how much is it?
How much is it and what can I do? I was saying that's why I was a couple of minutes late this morning. But I was speaking to a young woman who's engaged and she's about to get married and was talking to her about Tap the Gap. And she was saying, oh, I'm probably going to have 5 years out of my career to have kids. And I said, oh, well, have you chatted to your partner about that? And, do you understand that super is a shared asset under family law? And, you could see her just kind of is like freaking up. Okay, because you're going in there with the best of intentions. I mean, there's a lot of commentary at the moment around prenups, and women are having written into their prenups that they want their partner to be paying into their super while they're taking time off to have kids. Which to me, I'm like, wow.
Where was someone for me all those years ago? That would be great.
You think prenups are for celebrities and, like heiresses, but yes, they can be. It's about having
it's sorted
early on. So if you're a young woman and you're thinking, oh, super it's not relevant to me. I'm 25. I'm not going to tap into that for 10, decades.
it is about setting yourself up for success. And that's the equality conversation that we're not having, because
100%.
your work at home, if you do take time off, whether that is to look after kids, whether it's taking care of an aging parent, or potentially, you know, there's health-related conditions as well, you really have to know that the way superannuation is structured is, you know, it makes the most of compound interest. So if you're not compounding, I call it like your snowball is a little bit smaller. It doesn't matter if it's still rolling and it's not picking up speed, or if it pauses for 5 years, you jump back in there again. And even if it starts rolling again, it's smaller than your partner's. Really hard for you to catch up.
It really is.
It's hard.
Yeah.
And that's why I think if we're aware of these rules, you know, some super funds will cause your fees when you're not on maternity leave.
That's right.
Girl was like, what? Dang, we'll just read this and I'll give you a few bits. I think having those conversations, and
Absolutely.
to your point, saying it's not, we should not be afraid to have those conversations, because it, you know, it makes it, it just makes it more mainstream. And if more women start talking about it, employers start talking about it to their people, then it will be just kind of feel like hygiene. Right?
Yeah.
That's what we want it to feel like.
I get that. And also employers should be talking about it because they're paying it. So why wouldn't you be saying this is part of your pay? It's not just this airy-fairy 12% thing that goes this way. It's, you know, it's an asset for you. So it's a really important conversation to have. Any employers out there that would like us to speak for them, we're more than happy to. But that brings me on to, you know, we've got a lot of employed women and we've got a lot of business owners that listen, and people that also have ownership through, say, a self-managed super fund.
Yes.
What can we do through Tap the Gap now, and what's Tap the Gap looking to do in the future?
Yeah, great. So at the moment we're doing the roundups and the brand bonuses give you non-concessional contributions.
Yep.
So that's that after tax super, like after, you know, not the ones that traditionally a traditional employer would pay. But if you are working for yourself, that's something that you can talk to your tax agent about, because they can be, you can claim the tax on that. So it's a great way for, if you are working for yourself, I'm now one of those people, just Tap the Gap, the way it's working is basically the money that I'm putting into my super at the moment. And I do have plans to be able to put staged amounts in, because I'm not earning the salary I was earning before. But obviously
that won't be so very long.
Yeah, it'll let hope so. But yeah, so you can, that's the number one thing that you can do. And then I think, so you're actually adding to super, and look, self-employed and small businesses is a huge area. I mean, it's holding up the Australian economy. They don't get as much support as I think that they should get, because they are really powering Australia.
Yeah.
And, you know, for those people, again, they're time poor, they're busy, they've got a lot of people to look after, and they don't always look after themselves.
Well, it's not mandatory, is it?
It's not mandatory, which
I could
fight.
I know. I didn't pay it for a while. You know, we'll go ebbs and flows in business, and the first thing to go is my own super.
Correct.
So I won't do that again, but, you know, sometimes you have to, because you've got to, you know, business can be tough. But as it's not mandatory, having something like an incremental.
It's incremental.
It can be less.
Correct.
You know,
it doesn't feel like this huge business expense. But it can be, you know, it can be just trickling away in the back. And so then it's not nothing. And you'd be surprised. I mean, I haven't calculated, I think the difference was I didn't get the government super paid on maternity leave when I had my kids. It wasn't there. So you actually got paid the wage. You didn't get the super on the wage.
Right.
So I calculated if I'd got that, and that was only probably in the end like less than it was around $2,000. When I retire, that would be an extra $40,000 there. So I missed out on that.
Yeah.
Fantastic that the government has brought it in.
Yeah.
One that's going through that now, but that's the shift, right?
That's right.
Happen over time. And so we need to understand that, you know, for everyone out there and business owners, you know, up to $1.9 million, that money that you're putting into super that's growing in your investment, it doesn't get taxed. It can grow. It's not like an investment property. It's not like your shares. You're paying tax on that all the time. So when we think super's not sexy, what's not sexy about money? Like,
Yeah,
like something very
exactly.
sexy about that. So we need to shift our mindset.
Yeah.
So that's sort of the first thing that I'd think about. And then the second is things like we're getting a lot of interest or conversations in the community that self-managed super.
Yes. Yeah.
And, I think there's been a 40% rise in the shift. In that, you'll see a lot of commentary in the news and the press at the moment about, the mass exodus from traditional super funds.
Yeah.
Because really the servicing that's happening at that level where people are going into retirement, the big super funds, and granted, I love a lot of the super funds, they're doing the best that they can. They've got a really tough job to do between building their products, between compliance and servicing their members. But not all of them are set up to do that at scale. So we're seeing, people move and they're moving into different platforms that can service them a little better and it'll just really help them, right?
Yeah.
That there's the human connection and the advice is the key thing. And so, one of the options that might be is buying property through your self-managed super. If you're a business owner, that's a great idea to think about. And I always say, because it's general advice, I say it's something you could do, not something you should do. Yes, but something to think about because, that's an option where you could be, paying rent on a property that you're using for your business and you're growing an asset within your super. So it's these things that we just need to be speaking about a little bit more. I've just heard a lot of conversation around it. I've had friends that have done it. And it's probably something that, you know a lot about it. Or
Yes,
that's
yeah.
your space.
Yeah, well, we do a lot, and we're more so seeing a lot of business owners, as you said, buy a commercial property and then they pay themselves. And people know that in the second decade of property ownership, that's where you see the largest amount of growth. So it's like super, you want it over time.
Yeah, long term.
And then you've got the tax benefit at the end currently. So we are finding a lot of people are diversifying their super into, yes, they've got some here in shares. Yes, they've got some in property. And in the past, 3 or 4 years, there's probably been 5 new non-bank lenders in that market.
Yeah, wow.
And actually next week, AMP is reopening self-managed super funds lending. So all of Australia at the moment, there is not one bank like Westpac, NAB, ANZ, Commonwealth Bank, probably a lot of the banks that everyone listening is a part of, to do self-managed super funds. So AMP coming back into the space, I think they've identified the growing surge of people that are looking at SMSF or self-managed super fund borrowing. They're a bit more stringent than, say, the non-banks in what the product's going to be. However, a bank option is a cheaper from a interest rate point of view. And I hope to see more banks come back in that space and, being able to utilize, that in your open banking as well. You've got, this is the super, this might be my investment, this might be my owner occupied. It all comes into a consolidated form. And, we do free valuations annually. If you'd like, we assess each loan biannually to make sure twice a year you're on the best rate and best product for your needs. So that's all part of our service. And yeah,
There's a little collab coming on.
Yes. Well, we should do something in a couple of weeks, and maybe that's something we can speak to on a separate face to camera after this, if that's what you're interested in doing.
Just say on that, managed super, I think it's important for people to understand as well that if you're moving, you can hold on to your retail fund or you can split that.
Yeah.
Because I think what's important to understand is that a lot of people have their insurances, their life insurance connected to super, which is another space that we're looking to educate more so on. And I'm doing a panel in a week or so's time around that with one of our insurance partners to help women understand what actually exists in your super right now to protect you from a life insurance point of view. So that's something the government did, decades back or years ago, was to make that mandatory so that all Australians were covered to some extent.
Yes.
A lot of people, again, don't know that that's coming out of their super fund. It is a fee that, you're paying for something. So have a look at that and
absolutely
and what you're actually covered for, because it may not suit you for the life stage you're at.
Yeah, exactly. And it's about the life stage as well for everybody. The sooner the better to start that snowball. Just if it does grow over time, you're doing something great for yourself and for your family potentially. So, yeah, I just do encourage everybody to look in that mirror and to see where everything's at. And potentially it's about downloading one of the open banking platforms. But what I'll do is I'll add all of, if it's okay with you, everything about your website and downloading everything for Tap the Gap. And also I can add a few links there for open banking options, particularly AAA, use MFAA, endorsed Frollo, and it's a free service for us as well. So for me, it's not, it doesn't, I'm not paying, I'm not on a membership with that service. So let's get everyone trying to do that.
Correct.
Yes, and I'll come to your event, which we'll put in the show notes as well.
Amazing.
Yeah,
Amazing.
I'll be there.
And look, I think what you're talking about is just that knowledge, right? Like knowledge is power.
Truly.
And it doesn't have to be overwhelming. Like really what I say to people is like, just choose one action that you can do for your super today. That might be jumping on MyGov to check which super fund or funds you're with. Just really even finding your balance is the first thing you can do. Yeah. And, give yourself a pat on the back for that because you're already defying the odds by doing it. And then choose that next step. Yes, that's right for you. Yeah. So, there's ways that we, our content, educational content sort of guides you through that. You come back to it. You just go and do it. You're folding the load of washing, you can listen to one of the pieces of audio content and it's designed to fit in and around.
It'll start actually
living. Right?
Yeah.
Because no one's got time to sit down at a desk and completely consumed.
No, something will come up to distract you.
We're falling a time in our retirement, but
But we need to, and you've got the options, I chose in your app just to segue quickly. It's like, how do you want to live in retirement? Like simple, happy, or luxury. I was like, luxury, and tell me how much. And I was like, you know what? It's achievable. It's not far off having a lifestyle in retirement or potentially retiring early is. So knowing what that gap is for me is great. And knowing that, I'm getting closer to the gap of what men have is also like a little motivator as well, right? Yeah.
You like the
I'm not competitive at all, am I? No. But look, it's so good that we're able to do this just before International Women's Day, and it's changed a lot over the years. So what's your take on International Women's Day and events like that? I know you're speaking at probably a lot of events. Yeah.
Yeah, look, I think that, there has been some corporate backlash around International Women's Day on that. I had a great friend and colleague who developed this platform, and sorry to use bad language on a pod, but it's called Fuck the Cupcakes. And, that was several years ago because really her stance was, enough about wheeling stuff out for a day. We need to be doing things that last the whole year through. And I think, really that shift is to make corporates accountable for, the platforms they've got or the policies that they've got, I should say. WGEA is doing a fantastic job. That the latest report will come out just at the very start of March, National Women's Day. So that's something to look out for. And since that's come in, we are a couple of years behind the UK, but you can see the shift within corporates. So by making people accountable to track what their policies are, Company Over Australia has to report on that and talk about their gender equity policies. Yes, that's helped, but really, we need to make sure that there's actionable change. I think what happens in International Women's Day is, quick, let's get a bunch of women to sit on a panel and do that, and let's not pay them, and but let's just expect them to do something on top of their day job. Like that is not the mentality that they're looking for, and it should move beyond the inspiration. Like as creative by nature, inspiration needs to be there, but I think you also need action.
Absolutely.
What is the doing that a corporate is doing? What are they actually doing?
Yeah. What are they activating? Just to bring more equality to the situations.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Look, I think, we always talk about Tap the Gap being a family platform, and, it is for everyone, because I do think gender equality is a community issue. And when men are aware of the challenges, and men, non-binary individuals who, again, when women are suffering from something, that group obviously feels it even more. So it is really important to consider everyone in this, and anyone can use Tap the Gap. But it's making sure that people are aware that women's participation in the economy is just huge. Like, it's billions of dollars. KPMG, brought out a report the other week, or I'll probably say a month ago, but talking about she's priced less. So playing that MasterCard thing, everything's priceless. But we are losing billions of dollars from the economy because women are engaged in it, because they have the money.
Yeah.
We could be doing better as a nation if we were really tapping into women's economic enablement. And so I think what employers need to do is look at that, and that comes through a myriad of different things that they can be doing, helping women be promoted, making sure that pay gap is, standardized. But even at the top, the strongest data is reporting it's about an 18% pay gap at the executive level. So things like that is phenomenal. You've worked and you slogged to get to that top point, and you're still earning less by sitting next to you. So, there's lots of things corporate can do, but I would really encourage them to do something, not just say something.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
and is it makes it legitimate.
Exactly.
And it's not going to come off in poor taste.
Oh,
Yeah, I mean, look, my mum's a baker, and we love cake in our house. So, if you've got the action, you're allowed to have the cupcakes. Yeah,
I say fuck the cupcakes because they've got carbs. So, choose your lane. I always have some quick fire questions in our podcast, and I just say whatever comes to your mind, please. And this is kind of how we conclude everything, because, and I'll do this first. I just want to say I'm so amazed at what you've achieved. And I think, I was so eager to meet you and get you on this podcast so that I could share knowing you and what you've done. Because this whole time, you've only just said things to help people and not given yourself a rap. So, it's so lovely to have you on here. And we'll have to have you on again, possibly in 6 months, and learn, what you've done. But thank you again. So quick fire questions. Biggest misconception about women and money?
that they're just not good at it, and they don't want to do it. Yeah.
One habit women should start today?
Look, hold up that mirror.
Yeah.
Just look at it, and
Look.
don't run away, because you can do it.
Exactly. Love that. What does power mean to you?
For me, power is about authenticity. And if you can be yourself and show up as yourself consistently, then that's kind of standing in your power.
Yeah, I love that. Showing up as yourself consistently. I try to do that. It doesn't always happen, but I try. Is there a power quote or mantra that you live by?
Actually, I just say find the fun. And I know that probably feels quite different, but I think if you can find the fun in any situation, and, it's hard being a business owner, and it's hard being an early stage founder, but you need to seek those connections and those moments where you're loving what you're doing. That's true for anyone in work and life, because you need to see that other side, and I guess that silver lining. But if you try and find the fun even in the chaos,
Yes.
you're going to have a good time.
Yeah.
And I think, that echoes.
I love that. Yeah, very nice. Well, thank you again.
Hey, it's been fun.
Yes. And we look forward to learning more about what you do with this amazing platform. Thank you again.
It's such a pleasure to be part of your community. So, I'm very grateful.
Great. Thank you.